I got my UFOs on. I'm very comfortable.
Yeah, I actually have a nice shirt that I throw on that I used to call my business shirt because I'd be like in shorts and a t-shirt all the time, and like if I need to be on camera, like it's business shirt time. So,
this is the best part of doing a show like this where we're all just hanging out.
Yeah, the cold open.
It's actually quite hot here right now. What's the temperature down there, you Texas boys?
That's a good question.
It's very hot. It's extremely hot. It's
95.
Yeah, it's why am I outside? Everything sucks.
Like in the evening 95 or
it's in the evening 95. Yeah.
It's 95 right now. Yeah.
It's 90 in Houston.
My son just flew to spend 2 weeks with his grandfather in Oklahoma City, and he has never experienced Great Plains Indian summer before.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, how's he dealing with it?
I haven't found out yet. Literally just landed earlier this afternoon.
Oh, nice. So I should actually do the thing that I meant to do 7 minutes ago. There we go. Hey everybody! Holy, we got Marino in the audience. We've got Stephanie. We've got Robbie. Everyone, IaC, AI, programming languages, and orchestration with our friend Kat Morgan. Hey everyone, how are we doing? Wow, I love that Marino's in here. We should probably just drag him on stage too, just to have fun with him.
Mix it up.
So this evening, we're going to have more of a free and unfettered conversation. We're going to talk about all of the things. We're not going to really do like an official thing. This is going to be a conversation with Kat about the things, but I also want to get a lot of good audience participation in this to start asking questions as well. We're gonna say things. We're gonna have spicy opinions and tepid opinions and maybe some mild opinions about things. So let's all get in on the conversation and have a go at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kat, let's move this back to a little bit more of a casual conversation. There we go. Look at this.
There we are.
We're all there. Look at, hey everybody. Damien, how are you doing?
I'm really, really good. I'm fantastic, actually. I just painted my office nice shade of blue, got the art on the walls.
I was going to say, that looks really good, your background. I mean, Kat's background is better than all of ours, but yours is second.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I feel like that solid dark color is bold and modern, but understated. So your lighting just brings out your face. It's very well composed. You're doing good.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
She's making fun of you for that.
It's okay.
No, I will bring out the sarcasm, but I'm impressed.
I saw the color and I was like, that's the one. That's it. It's kind of like how
you saw the color, you saw your shirt, you were like, this is happening.
Yes. Yeah. Next steps are to do LED strips on the ceiling and kind of make it fun. So I'm doing fantastically. Thank you for asking. Nice. How about you, Kat? How are you doing?
Unlike you people in Texas, I am enjoying the summer weather. It is warm 74 degrees. It's been solidly in the 60s for the last week, so I'm feeling a little flustered from the heat. But overall, things are going well here. I am gearing up to start a new adventure that I'm super hyped about. Can't wait to tell people when it's appropriate to do so.
Is it currently not?
It's out of this world.
What? That's a hint. And for the prize for today's B Brown Bag is if you guess the place where cats get. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally joking.
No.
Wait, there's prizes? How do I win a prize? I like prizes.
Well, unfortunately, as the presenter,
not being a guest.
your prize is to hang out with us three schmoes.
Okay.
But if you're in the audience we are tracking all conversations in the audience area. And when people talk, then they get entered into a little giveaway at the end, and we do a randomized doohickey, push the button, and then somebody wins. Yay! And honestly, Kat, if you also want some AWS credits, I'll be happy to give you them.
Yeah, you know what? I feel like I could serve those on the black market and scalp them, kind of get a little bit of profit off that.
And now that you've said that, you're not getting any credits. Totally cut off. You're done.
I'm in
Absolutely
trouble
done.
already. You gotta tell me when there's rules.
Man, 5 minutes in, you're already cut off. This is ridiculous.
So back to your weather. It's really that cool there.
Oh yeah.
I'm super jealous.
I moved close to Canada on purpose.
I take back the hurtful things I said about Oklahoma. Wait, you're not there right now,
If we
right?
have anyone in Oklahoma, we're all dogpiling on Damien later because he was saying extremely he's like, Oklahoma, why are they even around?
Totally anti-Oklahoma. Yeah.
Very.
I've heard him say stuff about them before. This is not the first time.
Oh, yes. Well, being from Austin and being a Longhorns football fan, of course, no one likes
Sports
Oklahoma.
balls.
Yes.
Yep.
But yes, Roger, how are you doing, man?
I am doing great. I got my blurry background fixed, so I'm doing great. Yeah.
That's why I stacked me and Roger at the bottom, because the top bar is like the sizzle reel, all the really good backgrounds, the good camera. And then there's like us at the bottom, like, ugh, what is this? This just no. There we go.
Well, the way you're supposed to
better. That looks way better.
The way you're supposed to compose visuals, right? The human, at least the Western, left to right readers, they look at a picture, the vision comes in at the top left, it loops down at the bottom, and then you finish out the top right, and that's kind of how the human brain perceives and processes images. So with this composition, they see me first and they're like, oh man, why am I still here? And then they see Chris and they're like, I got this, and Roger, and then they leave on Damien, and that's just how our brains are wired, and I feel like you composed it well.
I'm going to need that study. As a psychologist, as a cloud therapist, I need to read that study so I can grok that fully.
Okay, well, I learned my art history from the 90s, so we have no idea if that's accurate.
Everything changes like every 10 years anyway. Oh, there's a new study out. Eggs are bad for you. Now they're good for you.
Basically.
Okay. There's a bunch of people here, and they want to learn about the things that we told them we were going to talk about. IaC, AI, programming languages, and orchestration. Dealer's choice. Kat, where would you like to start? This is obviously a very broad topic. You and I are close to the IaC space. Roger is close to the security and AI space. Damien is close to the programming languages and AI space. So we have a plethora of opinions and ideas, and we're all old hats at this business. So we're jaded. We're old battle scarred veterans. Where do we want to start? We want to start spicy and then just get worse, or how are we?
I want to try something, and I have no idea if this is going to go over well, but I feel like you guys are good with rolling with the punches. So if we get bowled over, we'll just recover and find another way forward. But I'm curious, with each of you having a different set of kind of disciplines and strengths in your own professional experience, if you each want to just pick a topic that you find particularly interesting in the industry right now, and then I'm going to try and weave it all together to open up a larger conversation just to see if it's possible. But I think I can do it.
It's like up close magic.
I think we'll see if it works.
Any card.
Right. Yeah. So we're going to go in the order of how, we see this composition here. So Chris, you first, just throw something out there that is a topic. It can be macro, micro, something that is intriguing to you in tech right now.
Intriguing to me in tech right now. So I will say that I am currently in the process of learning the Go programming language for the express purpose of flying to Canada to teach the Go programming language. through the lens of infrastructure as code and Terraform modules and API calls and stuff like that. So I am currently fascinated with artificial intelligence as a tool to enable learning. I'm literally, I have the Chat GPT window open over here. I've got the GitHub Copilot window open over here. I've got the Go learning stuff in the middle that I'm trying to stuff into my brain. And as I'm trying to stuff it into my brain, I am asking Chat GPT, questions. I ask the exact same questions to GitHub Copilot to see which one comes out with the better responses. So I'm kind of doing this cross-referential LLM bake-off right now from the lens of learning. So that's what I'm doing.
Okay, now I'm making up rules on the fly. Roger, Damien, you don't get to pick what Chris wrote or what Chris said. So Roger, you're next.
Yeah. That's a
now Chris, I'm gonna call you out because I said pick a thing, and then you're like, well, there's this like group of 8 different things in front of me right now.
Oh, okay. Well, I can narrow it down. I can narrow it down.
Okay. No, it's okay. Roger, go ahead.
I am currently more obsessed with AI, cybersecurity, and finding vulnerabilities within AI. Within certain models. So
I am super curious to like poke and prod at that topic in general.
Okay.
We'll get back to that, and then Damien, your turn. Not to be outdone by the other two. Let's see what you got.
Don't pick AI. Don't pick AI.
You just cut off both of his legs. Why would you say that?
You can't chop the man down before he even tries.
I don't know if y'all listen to the Behind the Bastards podcast, but I'm actually finishing a 2-part thing about kind of what they refer to as
podcast.
As the cult around AI, which is pretty interesting. It's very. I actually really love the podcast. I started listening to it yesterday, and I listened to it for like 9 hours straight. So it was pretty crazy. Anyways, technology. What I'm really interested in right now has nothing to do with any of these things that we talked about. I am actually super fascinated with the idea of programmable LEDs and writing code to make pretty lights blink. And so that's what I've been messing around with. On the professional side, I would say probably automation due to my history with PowerShell and a little bit of Python.
Okay. So let's see if I can pull this off. I think I've got it. And I really like that Roger knew to tell Damien, don't lay off the chaos. And he just like, you know what's interesting to me? Color changing LEDs. Not chaotic at all.
Yeah, I'm curious how you're going to stitch all this together.
Okay. All right, let's work some magic. So I actually kind of really like how this played out because it was super, super risky. I feel like going in and just throwing the door wide open to whatever is like scrambled around in all of our brains. But I find all of them to be incredibly connected. So coming from a lot of ops heavy background and doing a lot of ops optimization, kind of self-education and learning over the last 2 years, especially to understand, the year that I spent at Kong was pretty big deal for me. That's when I first actually started paying attention to why APIs exist, what is important about them. Before then, I was a consumer of APIs. But I didn't really think of them in terms of, I need to understand how they work. I need to know, like, under the hood, what's flying across the wire, or behind the scenes, like, what that API is actually doing, what it's driving, how it functions, what dependencies it has to be able to provide its capability. So that was really transformative for my own understanding of just how I see the world in a very API-centric time in tech. Network API specifically. Every term in tech obviously is overloaded at this point of time. But REST API, GraphQL, all these different things that are like shifting and moving, but sharing the common pattern of you have a programmatic capability, you're fronting that with a network service so that the capabilities as a service is just becoming very, very standard, right? Now, Chris, what you mentioned is actually really, really relevant to that, because what you're diving into to learn Golang, that's a big deal. You have to actually make an API, serve it, but then have a functional way to consume that API in a predictable manner, one that actually enables teams to build velocity rather than just meet a need right now. So what you're talking about is hugely relevant to kind of these important things to me, with the focus on APIs and even the jump to Pulumi and my time there, again, being heavily focused on APIs, but largely just managing the state of APIs declaratively with the ecosystem around that IaC tool. A lot of AI kind of in that whole story because of the Pulumi AI product that they were building, and like how that came into being and how it began to like set a foundation of test-driven development for AI and probability-based applications. So wild spread of things involved in that whole picture. But in the end, we're still focused on the capability that the API exposes and how we get our desire to manifest in the system, not to be super woo-woo and start sounding hippie like astrology here, but we're manifesting, right? That's why we call them YAML manifests. Exactly. Okay, so you're playing in the part of this whole tech stack and operator and developer kind of persona that I find really, really compelling right now. And then Roger, you shared, you're very interested in the risk associated with AI in general, especially since everybody and their mom literally am mom and did make blueberry muffins with an assist from ChatGPT. I was like, okay, let's see if we can get ChatGPT to like wear the hat of an expert like baking chef or something, and let's take fundamental principles of recipes and assemble a new recipe from scratch based on that, instead of just copying something that somebody already wrote down. Let's actually work from fundamental principles, which was a really cool way to engage with the LLM and NLP and things like that. But everybody is applying that wide open, uncertain interaction model to every problem on Earth that exists in the digital space. So probably gonna like invite you to show up on the Empathy Ops Twitter Spaces sometime, just to talk about your own specialty a little bit in the future. But we'll get into that. And then Damon, you brought to the table real world application controlled by like digital mechanisms. So like IoT in general, even if it's just color changing lights, that is real change in the physical world that we're controlling through some interface, whether it's a physical remote or a network home automation tool, or the hackers get into your house and they're like, I'm just going to start throwing whack colors out there and turn Damien's office into a disco, right? Like these are real, actual changes in the real world, which is why I'm in tech. We can burn, we can make the machine go burr all day long and rack up AWS bills, but are we doing anything useful at any point? Sometimes it's actually really hard to see that real world impact of what we do, depending on where we're working and what our focus is on. So that's kind of how I'm seeing the topics that you brought up. Why don't we go around the table and just like go ahead and land like some seeds for like how to proceed with this conversation? Because I'm super curious. Like I can see wheels turning. What do you got?
2 questions. Well, a question and a statement. No one would need to break into my office to make it a disco because they already would. It would already be a disco. That's the point of it. And how did the muffins turn out that ChatGPT made?
I have big plans for them. I went to the county fair last weekend, and I was not in an official capacity, just in the most Karen way possible. I was judging the other muffin entries there, like visually, because obviously, and I have big, big dreams for next year with getting a blue ribbon on my first ever attempt entering food into a fair, which was never actually on my radar as a goal before. But suddenly, apparently, you turn 35, and it's like you're gonna be super like Betty Crocker. It's like time or something. I don't know. I honestly can't explain the reason, but this is happening, and I'm gonna win.
It's the Midwest coming
Age-related
out.
baking desire. Up next on V Brown Bag.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't bake. I smoke a lot of meat with my smoker.
Nice butt.
Yes. I tweeted
I'm sorry. I still think it's funny where he says it.
for Kat's purposes. I tweeted a picture of a pork butt, which is actually from the pork shoulder.
Yeah.
But they were historically, they got their name from history. So, anyways, I tweeted that I had a really nice butt. So, anyways, I actually asked ChatGPT just now, how would I smoke a pork butt? And I'm a little bit iffy on how it told me to do that. So, that's why I was asking, like, what about the blueberry muffins? Like, did it say a teaspoon of nitroglycerin or?
I went at it, and I was initially really disappointed, which is why I stepped back and I was like, okay, I need to adjust my prompt engineering approach here. Because I did. I was like, hey, let's make the best blueberry muffins in the world. And it gave me very rudimentary instructions for a very basic level assembly of a muffin. And it wasn't inspiring by any stretch, which is why I started totally new chat, and I was like, from the ground up, I first requested information on the different skills that are fundamentals in the art of baking. And then once it listed those out, I was like, okay, let's go ahead and identify the primary different types of baked goods you can create. And then I took those two and continued building context, but enhancing the context with fundamental concepts all the way to the point of, okay, these are the ingredients that I have for this type, and these are the way that I had blueberries that were very specific to a certain customer of insanely good blueberries. There's no way to describe it other than you can't buy these blueberries anywhere, so it's not even fair. But I had those, and then it suggested lemon zest to brighten it up, and I was like, I don't have that. Let's work with these other ingredients, and we continued to build towards this final recipe, and it was freaking amazing. And I'm not a baker. I love to cook, but largely savory stuff, and so I was very impressed with how this whole thing built a superior generative output by first investing in the context required for it to actually provide a superior and well thought out plan. That is actually really relevant to all of AI application right now.
Yeah, I find that really fascinating. And there's also something a little bit I don't know the right term for it, but kind of sad that an AI who doesn't know what makes a blueberry muffin delicious, from it couldn't tell the difference, right? But I don't know, it just makes me feel kind of sad, It's
So if it actually kind of helps at all, I can totally see like the dystopian perspective.
that's the word. Yes.
But again, I am not a baker. So at one point of time, it was using very specific terms because so I focused so much on fundamental decision making that I needed 3 totally different types of sugar. Like I needed turbinado sugar. I didn't know what that was. Powdered sugar. And then I needed just like regular sugar. And I substituted brown sugar because I like a little more flavor. But that also required adjusting the recipe again. But anyway, so like because of this very low bar and comfortable engagement model of NLP, I was emboldened to learn about things that I wouldn't have been if I had to sort through all of the different ads and everybody's life stories to find the fundamental like details all spread all across the internet that I would have had to learn or buy all of the books. And I wouldn't have been able to like actually fit that victory into my life. But making really good baked goods all of a sudden when I had no experience and get that successful outcome was really encouraging to maybe think about going and doing something else. So in some ways it can look like it is like removing us from our human element. But I think when we come at it from the right perspective, it can lower the barrier to entry for like really feeling like you're succeeding at something that was out of reach in some instances as well. So I feel like we should approach it with at least a pragmatic honesty about how it can enhance whatever it is that we're doing, as much as the risks of letting it override the end goal of giving people more access to being human. We lost Damien. He's like, oh, that's too much woo-woo.
Apparently he disagreed and just pieced the hell out of here. He's like, you know what, that sucks. I'm gone.
I actually put it in Discord. We've got a private little Discord channel here for the behind the scenes stuff. And I was saying, damn it, my stream is doing it again. She's going all Cylon because she was like brah and breaking up. It was very cool, but yes, not at all. So anyways, I don't know what's going on with my internet.
Oh no. That Texas internet again.
I really like Damien though, that like when it was time to actually like apply some of the topics floating around, you went straight to ChatGPT and you're like, I'm gonna use my Texas Pride barbecue master like skills and see how it stands up. Like, can it actually, hold its weight? You just went right at it. That's action. That's what I'm talking about.
Because I don't bake, I couldn't tell if it was full of nonsense, right? But I can make a good meal with a smoker. So yes.
Yeah. No, truly. When I put everything in the oven and I was like, well, there's only one way to find out now. I truly had no idea because I was not judging based on any prior art or knowledge in like floating around in my own head. I wasn't comparing against anything on the internet because I didn't want to bias myself and ruin the experiment of, can this actually help me achieve this, silly outcome more?
So my question to Damien,
empowered.
My question to Damien is, did you leverage our previous V Brown Bag prompt engineering episodes and do the whole thing where you say, assume the role of a Texas barbecue pit master and give me the blah 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 blah? Did you prompt engineer it, or did you say, give me good barbecue me?
I said, how do I smoke a pork butt?
So you said, give me good barbecue me.
Yes.
You really took that caveman image and you're just like, Damien, here's your club. Go tell AI to give you stuff. Wow. I feel like this should be a comic, actually. That would be such a cool, like, coloring book.
Now he's rising to the occasion. Now he's actually going to do it right. he's going to do the assume the role and
Damien's like, bet. Hold my
pay
tongue.
good money for ChatGPT. Use it.
Right.
Yep.
So I've never thought about asking it to tell me how to. Oh man, it just said all right, partner. Y'all. No one says partner. This isn't like. I feel like I should have like jangly boots or something. Like,
Oh God.
this barbecue ain't big enough for the both of us. Like,
I'm gonna say assume the role of a Jewish grandmother and teach me how to make a really good matzah soup, and it'll be
Oh gosh.
Did you forget to pay your bill? That's why he's calling you partner.
This is already unforgettable, and all we've done so far is get Damien to give his like first response. So, Roger, it's your turn. Like, we had like Chris bringing up that whole like the human operator in the loop of all these tools. Damien is trying to do like LED stuff and barbecue stuff with AI. And sorry, I'm like totally leaking now. Human unit over here. And Roger, you're all about the risk of applying AI. So with the madness in the house, like how do you feel like all of this wraps up into understanding your own perspectives on life, the world, and AI?
Wow, that's first of all, it's a really good question, right? So from the security perspective, I always kind of look at it from the outside looking in. So forget about just looking at the LLMs that people or developers are creating, or organizations are creating, or whoever's using an LLM in a cloud environment. What can happen if somebody can actually inject information in there, model poisoning, or if somebody can attack the LLM from outside of the environment and basically either obtain sensitive information, because we do know that developers have a tendency to not necessarily always use training data. We're sometimes using some kind of production data, and depending on where they're putting this information, right, it can be susceptible to either attack or some kind of malicious intent from somebody else on the outside. Okay, so you've got that. Then you've got the infrastructure that actually holds this information, right? How to you have to actually protect the infrastructure either through some kind of authentication, encryption, some kind of methodology in which you're securing the infrastructure itself. So are you protecting the infrastructure? And then once you are protecting the infrastructure, are you protecting what's on the inside of the infrastructure itself, right? The elements as well as the data itself. So that's the kind of the approach that I look at it from outside in.
Okay, so I imagine if you're looking at the risks of production data, like we really just cannot let Damien's like secret sauce, like that secret ingredient in there. Tamarind. Yeah. It's tamarind. We cannot let that secret like ingredient out into the wild, but the LLM is trained with that potentially included. That actually can be pretty risky, right? Because that winning recipe is worth what, a solid $60,000 to the right buyer.
For the right partner, yeah.
The right partner, that's right. Howdy, y'all. Okay, so I understand, at least to some degree, a lot of the PID and other like secret information can be walled off if you strictly enforced, high walls around your AI garden, so that only people. You're kind of getting back to that whole trusted network paradigm almost, even if you're using SSO to actually reach that endpoint. You're just assuming anyone with those SSO credentials has equal access to whatever secret information is in the AI app behind it. So like especially with things like RAG, where we are putting live production, real world information there at the fingertips of the LLM. What do you see as patterns right now for making secure information safe to use by an LLM, but not at risk of leaking by mistake into the wrong persona or wrong hands, what have you?
Oh, that's the question. So I did mention before, either using some type of encryption or better yet, taking that data and either obfuscating some of the information out of it or changing the information in it. This like,
okay.
Might
be distributing keys, but they're invalid keys.
Yeah, right, or even temporary keys, right, as opposed
or just
to
rewrite all of those secrets. Foobar.
Secrets, yeah, exactly.
Okay. So one of the things that I've been, and this is just me like completely drifting off into like dreaming about the future. But I see a lot of RAG where it's assumed that if the key value, just whatever it is, that semantic pointer is retrieving, that that pool of data is equally perceived as accessible by the LLM, and it has no strong discrimination between safe and unsafe information. Have you seen like the RAG ecosystem or like controls around that figuring out how to distinguish between? Or is it just the brute force? We can't put anything in the RAG database that's not allowed, or we can't give access to this app in a space where that shouldn't be leak. That's really tough line to draw and still maintain a functional value, right?
So I have not seen that one myself, right?
Okay.
But I will jot that down as something to kind of take a look at. Right?
So one thing that I have been playing with a lot recently, dabbling with, something that a friend and I at Red Hat got started with, just using OCI as a generic object store, almost like completely analogous to S3. But exploiting the fact that OCI includes the ability to publish manifests with content address pointers to the blobs where the objects live. But those manifests have additional fields where you can load them up with arbitrary metadata, right? So if we wanted to publish an object and you exploit OCI for its content addressing to build in the features that say ChainGuard offers, SigStore, things like that. Suddenly you have content addressing, you have named addressing, so that's like your FQDN to the image or the blob, whatever. But you also have this tagging function allowing you to, finely control what phase each data is published in. And then you get to load the manifest with all the information about what an object is. And it's like data at rest that is fully described. So instead of going to GitHub and memorizing or hard coding how objects are published, and then, writing, I have Docker files that pull blobs directly from GitHub releases, right? And it has to assess when it's building the image, what architecture is the image. It has to assess what platform the image is compiled for, what architecture it is, things like that. But the OCI distribution spec already handles all of that. So when you actually pull BusyBox image, you're getting the right object without actually putting in all that labor, because that's all handled behind the scenes. So that being able to leverage that exact same benefit of not having to programmatically describe the content you're getting, but being able to programmatically look up the content you're getting and know what you're getting, with all of that built-in security and such, is actually pretty cool. especially after spending time, implementing API gateway plugins and writing things in Lua is not something I want to do. Let's move beyond that. But really, we like implementing OPA policies at the packet header level, where you're like, this packet has this ID, it's still live in the cache, and this ID has these permissions over here. So whitelist, blacklist, we can determine whether or not it has access to this API or service, but now we actually get to apply those. So we have on the object level, because that manifest, we can write we can attach almost RBAC on the individual objects now, right? So we have object-based access control. And so one thing that I'm hoping to see over the next 3 to 4 years is actually having object-specific access controls in your RAG system, so that the LLM inherits whatever agent privileges the user has, and when it actually exercises, when it does a RAG query, it's only ever going to get anything out of that API that those privileges allow.
Giving it more contextual information based
exactly. So it's informed query, if you will. Yeah. And you're still able to granularly enforce access controls on individual objects without hampering the actual function of the LLM, right? So that's one of the things that I'm really looking forward to seeing develop as a larger context in the AI space. And I'm curious, like, how people are actively solving those problems right now, because I'm just off in like dreamland building things that I think are interesting, and hopefully someday they'll, other people will think the same.
We should tag you up with JJ Asgar from last week's show. He basically, so he works over at IBM on their open source LLM Granite, and we didn't even think to ask him that kind of question, but that would be a really fun thing for you two to chew on. So I'll introduce you to.
Yeah, IBM Research has some really interesting brains in there, like doing the Wild West stuff. Howdy, partner with AI.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they are.
Sorry, Damon. Damien, sorry. You are howdy partner, like in perpetuity now.
That's quite all right. At least I've got the howdy.
We have 3 V brown baggers that 3 co-hosts that live in Texas, but Damien gets howdy partner. This is unfair.
He put in the effort, and
did he though? Did he really?
Did. He did. Okay. He thought, I can write a prompt. I can test AI. Okay, so
nice.
Who here was, out of the 3 of you, was the most reluctant to actually start using like AI tools? We call them AI. I'm just going along with the branding here. Let's not be pedantic about it.
Who out of the 3 of us was the most reluctant? I will tell you which one was the most enthusiastic, but she's not here right now.
She's not here.
Okay.
Shala jumped both feet in. She had a ChatGPT subscription well before any of us even thought to get one, and she's been leveraging it quite well. I don't know. I mean, I now have a subscription. Go ahead, Roger.
I think any of us can say that we were reluctant to get involved. I think the novelty of it was that, hey, wow, this is really cool, and as curious minds, we wanted to understand what it could do for us, not only from from our professional standpoint, but from a personal standpoint, and making sure that we kept up with what was going on in the industry. So as a tool, it became almost daily usage. But then we've all probably gone in different ways, using it, right, or understanding it in different ways. Some of us are more programmatic focused. Some of us are more prompt focused, and so that type of thing.
Jeremy's
think I can-
comment is very salient on this one.
Yeah, I
Basically,
like that.
we have an embarrassment of riches right now, and we don't know where to go with it. Almost, there's so many ways that we can do it. There's a list now being sent out by Forbes on prompts on how to use ChatGPT and LLMs in general to improve your life in various and sundry different ways. How to get better at your finances, how to get better at personal training. There's so many avenues that you can go down that a lot of people just kind of get stuck with. Oh, can use it for anything, so I don't use it for anything.
Yeah, I've done that. I definitely I hit fatigue and then I'm like, I'm not going to touch AI this month because I'm going to use the skills that I have and like keep those tools sharp and not keep acting like an experiment sitting in a seat, like trying to get to a desired outcome. So maybe I can ask a more specific question. I'm interested, Chris, in how you see AI, especially right now while you're figuring out like Terraform provider authoring and things like that. Like, do you feel like you are like that almost could be seen as spinning your wheels in a like classical paradigm where like, oh yeah, we're going to be writing Terraform for the next 15, 20 years. Still like we need Terraform providers. This is a skill that I'm building. Do you feel like that is the road we're on there? Do you feel like AI affects that roadmap over time in the near or long term? Like, how do you feel learning how to do this task now with AI potentially poised to do more agent style like orchestration and like cause actual change in the world for turning on Damien's lights?
So I see it giving, I see it being beneficial in some ways, and I also see it being detrimental in other ways, interestingly. And I'll use a very specific example, building a provider. So when I was learning how to build a provider, I would take a piece of code not generated by AI and put snippets of it into the interface and say, explain this to me, using small words, and then it would start doing that for me. That is valuable to me, and then I could start writing stuff. What was a detriment to my learning was turning on Copilot and having it start auto-completing stuff, because then it's pre-filling stuff that I don't know what it's doing. And so it got me more confused. So I turned off Copilot inside of VS Code, but I left an interface running on the side so that it wouldn't get in my way.
Right. I like that. So I did some of that kind of same workflow with learning to write Pulumi providers. And I have like half-baked Pulumi providers laying around where I reached a point where I was like, oh, I know how to do this now. There is no way I have the follow through to finish this. Because that process, there's a lot of fatigue involved. So at the end of the day, once you know what once I knew what I needed to know, I was like, was this actually the most effective way to learn this or not? Was it just the like least common denominator? I was able to see this as a path forward. And so that's the road that I took. Or, classical software devs would probably look at me and be like, we don't use this in our daily life because we actually understand the system and we understand the patterns and we're thinking in those terms already. So it would have slowed us down. We would just go look at the API docs or what have you, and then just run from there. And I'm still uncertain, like, if it is a net positive to our practice as ops people yet, or if we're still so bewildered by where should we and should we not apply it that it's still in, like, I feel like we're in our petri dish phase. Like there's all kinds of things growing on the petri dish, but eventually the patterns that last are going to outlast the other things that we're doing. And I'm wondering what that's going to look like.
Well, I think there is for me, the bright line delineation for when AI goes bad is when it's making code changes that I don't understand, and then somebody pushes to prod or whatever. If if the AI is making stuff that is beyond not when I say I mean the developer in general.
Yeah.
If somebody is leveraging AI and copying pasting it, just like Stack Overflow, copy paste, stick it in, and then just hit go, and if it works, great. If they do it for that reason, that's using it for evil, and that's bad. If you are leveraging it as a learning tool, and it's helping enable you to grok the information better, then that's great. So that for me is that tipping point. And I know that for some people that's not their tipping point, and that's when that's when things like Twitter streams break down after only a couple. Never mind.
You did
Sorry.
it. You did it. You did it.
I did it.
Okay,
thanks.
What is DDoS anyway? I'm sorry, not going there. No. So I like that you're like looking at it from what is constructive. In my experience so far, getting AI to do useful things works better if I make the problem smaller. Being that
exactly.
LLMs are probability engines, it's like walking back this entire romance that the tech industry has had with determinism and like declarative ops in general, especially from an ops like seat, wearing that DevOps hat. The confidence of knowing exactly what's in a PR and how that's going to affect the outcome. There's a lot of like business value from that when you extract the technical conversation and you're talking about how that impacts our daily lives. And it's almost like this like fling with AI popping up is we lost sight of this really high value of determined like confidence in an outcome. And the only way that I've seen with AI so far to get that back is making the problem that the LLM solves really, 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 really tiny. So I feel like when I was doing like a Pulumi providers, I had my Hello World Pulumi provider. And every time that I had a problem that wasn't quite making sense quickly, I would transpose that one little problem, that puzzle, into a reproducer of sorts in the simple Hello World Pulumi provider. And then I had a lot more success with the LLM actually writing that feature correctly or explaining what I needed to find out or working with me so that as I was like debugging things and trying to solve the core of the problem, whatever I was running into, like it had a fewer number of probabilities that it could tangent off into and go entirely the wrong direction. That takes a lot of like labor. So it'll be interesting to see how we translate that from the human being the agent regulating the LLMs to building layers of meta LLM agents like, hey, LLM, I need this thing solved. So it breaks it out into almost, your Jira ticket of here are the requirements and conditions, and then actually manages smaller LLM tasks under that. It is what it feels like we're going to have to be implementing soon, especially after watching the Pulumi AI product develop and improve significantly. It still feels to me that like the LLM itself has to have a top thread where it's like evaluating almost in a cognitive matter whether or not the generative output is like meeting quality and being constructive or not.
And there's actually I was reading somewhere where they're actually starting to do a bit of that, where certain LLMs that are better at math, they get that chunk of the task split off to that LLM. Other parts that are better at cognition or natural language, all of the different things that different LLMs are better or worse at, they get their task. So I definitely see it going along that path as well.
So I'm really curious if that is going to end up affecting what people think about when they think about writing orchestration code and automation code, or engaging with whatever interface we use to orchestrate compute. Like, because I almost feel that providers on the whole are a lot of energy invested in something that we can declare and eliminate possibly with, for example, people have a common talking point when people aren't familiar with Pulumi specifically is they think, oh, it's a wrapper around Terraform. Because of that whole bridge provider paradigm, which is what allowed them to build a catalog quickly of things that they could do with that tool. And what actually exists in that bridge provider is a cleaner way to consume the Terraform API spec. So that spec written for Terraform providers is more verbose and clear than an open API spec. So it almost looks to me like we just need to improve how we publish APIs and capabilities that describe what you can do with a function, so that LLM in general have a cleaner understanding of what they can do in the world. And then maybe we don't actually have providers exactly like we do today. And we just say, hey, this is the state that infrastructure needs to be in. This is the API spec. What are you going to do about it? Like how do you pick up on those vibes? Because it's totally vibes happening, in my head here around the topic.
And then to compound upon that is the additional like ops burden layer, I call it, where the developer is making architectural decisions that might be counterintuitive to an ops person. Like, no, you don't want to overburden this layer of it. You have to like, chunk your data into smaller bits or something, or spread your table out flatter or something like that. And there's that gap, which you have to have deep architectural knowledge of the infrastructure to do. And people are just like, no, I just want to put code down. I just want to do my thing, man. I just want to make my website and make $1 billion. I'm like, yeah, but you're running it on a Raspberry Pi. It's not going to work. So
I feel like that's a dare.
Bet.
Yep. Yeah. Hold my not Stanley Cup.
Interesting. So Ravi just said he found a limit on Copilot in that he's been looking into Carbon, which is the Google language, the language that Google created to replace C++ in 2022. And he's not getting a lot of love from Copilot because it's so new.
Right. Yeah.
That makes sense.
So LLMs, this brings up an interesting thing about what it takes for an LLM to be effective. Because LLMs don't do any actual logic, right? They have a ton of an LLM is what?
It needs prior art. It needs to copy from somebody else.
Yeah. So an LLM fundamentally is a mathematical expression of relative semantic meaning, right? Like when you think about what is a token, there's lots of ways to describe it, but fundamentally it's a string coded in human language that is associated with, well, specifically for RAG, this is really clear and obvious. What happens to create a vector embedding for, this is super simplifying it, but you take those tokens and it might be a whole word, or it might, how your chunking algorithm might differ, but it plots a numerical point by expanding the meaning of that token and then running a hashing function across a higher number of tokens that are similar to that one token, and then putting a little plot in vector space. So you define the dimensions of a RAG database, and then it plots a point. And that point is completely useless and meaningless, and it can't really do anything helpful unless you have a lot of points in that database. You have to have the usefulness of relative meaning for LLMs and RAG databases to actually be helpful. Because they don't understand semantic meaning, but they know what the semantic meaning is relative to whatever other tokens that you're using and how they're ordered. So without enough data points to plot a large context of semantic data points in the graph or in that RAG database, you're going to get very little value back from whatever, the LLM or database on that topic, because it just doesn't even have the relative awareness to make an informed prediction of what other things are related to that topic. Which is why we see LLMs struggling significantly with things like Golang library versions. There might be a wealth of training data on older versions of a Golang library, even a very common one, and that is going to bias it to what is common, not necessarily what is optimal, not necessarily to what is, more advanced or newer, unless you construct other context around it, like I specifically need this Golang library version, and then suddenly it has that refinement to its context to improve the probability that you get what you're actually needing out of the LLM. So the amount of old data can largely affect an outcome of something that is even a strong ecosystem like Golang. And so if we learn new, for example, if we're doing LLM-powered infrastructure orchestration, we need to also be aware of the difference between deploying common architectures and well-optimized architectures. And like in advertising with LLMs and AI, you don't want to overutilize it for human creativity, for tasks that should be human creativity, because if you use an AI for creative purposes, you're going to sound like everybody else using AI for creative purposes. But at the same time, if it can eliminate repetitive tasks that aren't human creativity type tasks, it's like using a calculator. Yeah, it's going to get you there faster, and you don't necessarily have to worry as much about, oh, now I'm going to sound like everybody else talking about a tech thing. Tech bro spreak. Howdy, partner.
That's the thing that I have beef with when it comes to AI is just the flood of new novels on Amazon Prime trying to like all of the incredibly trite and awful content that's being spewed out of these LLMs is staggering. And people, and the reason why it's happening is because people are making money off of it. If you can use an LLM to make 300 page novels in a second and sell each one for a penny or whatever the model is, I'm sure they've done a cost benefit analysis to figure out, oh, I'm actually making a profit off of this, so I'm just going to keep on grinding them out to the point that Amazon now has to have a specific like rate limit on how many novels a person can upload over the course.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's
I'm
bananas.
curious about how that actually changes profit incentive structures.
Right.
Because I mean, in some ways, like there was a risk after COVID of people struggling to do in-person events and stuff more, do in-person engagement with people and things like that. And I feel like AI suddenly flips that worry on its head because so many synthetic content, there's so much skepticism now, and I think increasing over time for a while, just inherent skepticism about content. Like, is this from a human or is this from some machine that's just a bunch of monkeys hitting at the keyboards, and suddenly the tokens are all landing close enough to good that people are shipping,
but I mean, on the other side of that, though, there are people out there using it for good. We've got one, a friend of ours who's going to be on the show, Linda Mohammed. She's created she's painfully camera shy, so it's been I can't get her on the show. It's been a while. I've been trying to convince her. But so she's created an AI Linda video persona that she can just upload the script to, and AI Linda speaks to the camera and does the things on video with lips moving and everything, and it looks really really good. This is like a digital assistant for her to get over her camera shyness.
That's cool.
and she's friggin' brilliant. So I want to get real Linda on here and AI Linda and have her do a show and tell on that. So I mean that's a really good use case for it. But then there's also
like ventriloquism.
Basically, yeah,
slightly different. Yeah, that's so cool.
Make this one say words. Chris is the best. That's right.
Oh no, plagiarism. See, this is one reason in-person stuff's going to matter. Hearing somebody say something, you're going to know that it's actually them.
Right,
totally
exactly.
Not robots.
You decide whether content or code is AI or human or person created. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, and I think that there are places now that are actually making that be a thing, where you cannot just upload. You have to have citations if you're going to leverage it via Copilot or something. You get like a little tag that says this was made by AI.
See, 2025 is going to be the year of the NFT crypto bros. Everything's going to be an NFT. Everything's going to be an NFT because you're going to have attribution now, right? I say this like foot in mouth, knowing that this is
stabbing me in the soul.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
That's our show for tonight, folks. Everybody have a good evening. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Light it on fire. There we go.
Publish it. We're going straight to prod. All right. Actually, now that I say that, we are actually a little bit over time. Kat, this is awesome.
This is super blast. Fun. And like, I want Roger's opinion on that NFT stuff. So, we'll have to find where you guys are going to be in the future. Maybe KubeCon or who knows what.
I want Roger to turn a light on in his house. What are you doing? You look like you're in a.
He's like, he's like, I'm worried about security and threats because I am the security threat.
Yes.
I am the knight. Right? I am Batman.
Yeah.
He's hiding in the shadows with a knife.
The bat cave in the back. Yeah.
Damien, you're like 3 for 3 right now.
Hey.
This is going to be one of those things where you see like hands come around Roger's neck on the side and just yank him off the camera. It's one of those horror movies.
Really holding grudges against kitties chewing on LED light strips and things, and Nerf darts shooting at people and things like that. Like much violence.
What happens in the pre-show stays in the pre-show.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. You're making up rules as you go. I'm feeling like it's not fair.
Hey, we didn't give away the secret sauce on where you're going. You can't be talking about the pre-show.
Oh, that's true. Blackmailed. Wow.
We kept our mouths shut, Kat.
Man,
I'm not part of this.
You're like,
I'm not part of this.
I know.
I'm not part of this.
All right, folks. Thank you so much, Kat, for coming on. A pleasure as always. Once you've landed at your new gig, we're going to have you back on so we can talk about that some more. That'll be super fun.
Giveaways, Chris.
The giveaways. Let me present my screen and share the entire screen. Boop. Share.
Ooh, I see a comment there about doing Christmas light shows with Damien's LED setup for Christmas. So I'm thinking that's going to require like a Terraform provider and everything.
Oh, it's got V brown bags in there because I commented one time accidentally. Hopefully it lands on somebody that's not us. Hey, Charlie the Creator, congratulations. You are the winner of tonight's AWS Compute credits. If you would, please DM me either in YouTube or in Twitter. I am at Mistwire. Here's my name. Here's my face.
And if you stuck around this long just for those credits, you deserve them.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. So DM me on at Mistwire, either on Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, all of the places, and I will get those to you, or I will find you. Charlie the creator. And
Oh,
find you. I'll find you, Charlie. I will make you take these credits.
cheer up, Charlie. No, sorry.
This show took a turn.
Wow.
Somewhere.
She went to Charlie in the Chocolate Factory.
All right. I did. Sorry.
Everybody, have a wonderful evening. We'll talk to you next week. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.